I don't know about you, but this is our last hour together. We're going to make it count. And all of you, if you hadn't noted those dates, World Conservation Congress, June 2020, the place to be. All right, the organizers have asked me to do something I've never done before, but I would love to do. So we're going to take a selfie of the room. But there are loads of really empty spaces. It's going to look really bad. So I don't know if you really want us to do this, Jerome. Oh, people are coming in? What is this, guys? It said time is running out. Okay, so as we wait, we'll wait for a few more people to arrive. A load of you have been talking about how this morning's speakers were really inspirational. A few years ago, we had been asking ourselves, where are the leaders here? Do we have leaders? And I think today and yesterday have confirmed that we do. And it feels a bit like, you know, one of those video games when you've gone through to the next level. So we've gone through level 1 of raising awareness. Tick. Okay? Do you want to quit or do you want to continue? Good. Continue. Next level 2 is raising the ambition. And I think today we've seen that we're there. So tick. Now is it time to quit or is it time to go on to the next level of action? So our panel, in this closing panel, we really need to move into this level of action. I've had enough of the discussions. We're on there. I think it's fantastic. We've got great words. And what are we going to do? And can we be honest with ourselves about knowing, do we actually know exactly what to do as a community? Because everyone is waking up and they're looking to us to help. So with that, where's Jerome? I don't know if this is going to, should we try? Let's try. But then I think what we're going to do, because it's going to look really strange if there's a whole hole in the middle here, is if you can all go towards the middle, okay, stand up, and then move towards the center. That's good. Ah, you also take one. Good, good. They want a selfie, okay? Ah, perfect. Okay. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Okay. Yeah, stay standing. Standing is good. Yeah, it looks fuller. Yeah, looks like there are more of us if we're all standing. Okay. Now wait, I'm going to throw this because I'm going to hold it up. Ah, you want it? Ah, who's going to catch it? Okay, you ready? It's like, who's going to get married next? Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Chevaux, sister. Okay, here we go. Now, this is what Jerome wants me to do, so I'm not very good at selfies. Are you? You're very good at selfies. I don't know. I don't know. Let's try. We need the planet up in the air. Oh, no, wrong way. Okay, wait. What are we doing, Jerome? Woo! I'm completely white. I can't see the planet. Okay, I think we're done enough. Woo! Okay. Now the spirits are high. We're going to keep up the energy. I'm going to invite on stage a bunch of people. Thank you. It's my great pleasure to now invite the closing panelists to stage. Thomas Verheye. Drum roll, European Commission, let's go. Bernedine Bos, Director of Services at CSR Europe, come on stage. Kim, come on stage. Kim Pope, World Economic Forum. Yeah, so wherever. Whoa, okay, here we go. Tom Vöge, ICC, thank you, Head of EU Affairs. And last but not least, Mark Gough, CEO of Capitals Coalition. All right, thank you. We're in a very intimate setting here, but I don't want you to feel comfortable. Okay, we had a bunch of questions that I'm going to ignore because I actually think they're boring and we need to think about what's going to make a difference. So, over the past week, it's been Natural Capital Week in Madrid. It's been fantastic. What are your impressions? Do you feel frustration? Do you feel energized? I want to know how you feel. Mark, you're always open to share with people how you feel, right? Different feelings. Yeah, you need a mic, sorry. Yeah. Well. Can you just share, and we're going to hear from you. What do you think?
I was really inspired by this morning, by the speeches, as you said. And it's great to see that coming together. I also, having it in Madrid and seeing so many Spanish businesses and bringing some of these messages here, but also learning from some of the things that are happening here, has been really exciting. There's so much more we need to do, and we're now planning this big event in Uganda next year, at the beginning of March, end of March, sorry, in Uganda, where we're seeing a lot of traction happening now in Africa. And I think what we've got to do is build upon what we've been seeing here. There are some challenges, you were saying that, and it's not all wonderful news. I think one of the things I'd really like to see, and this has come through from most of the sessions, is we're getting a lot of the passion, the drive about why we're doing it, but I'm not really getting to really what is changing. Where are we actually getting the points that things have changed? So one of the things we're going to try and do next year is to bring together the stories where we can start seeing those changes. And there aren't as many as we would really like. There's lots of activity. But try and really focus on the change that's occurring. The impact is where we need to go to next, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's just go. Is it okay if we just move along? What have your impressions been, and how do you feel?
Well, unfortunately, I only arrived yesterday afternoon, so
so you feel frustrated to have
most
missed
of the
a
fun
lot
I
of
seem
this
to have missed,
conversation.
and so yeah, I feel frustrated about this, but sounds great. Certainly, this event I think is exactly what you said before. This moving from awareness raising, talking about what needs to be done, to actually doing something. So it's great to see that happening, and certainly from the International Chamber of Commerce, that's exactly what we're trying to do. I just been in a discussion last week with our Secretary General and most of the Secretary Generals of the European National Committees of the ICC, where we really talked about the future and the topics we want to talk about there. And that was exactly John Denton's point. We're not a think tank. It's not about glossy reports of goals, but actually doing something. So we're doing a lot of work in the digitalization space, which we're really kicking off right now. So not that much to report in terms of what we've done, but certainly huge ambitions there. And I would like to also mention in this context our Chamber's Climate Coalition, which has only been kicked off in the summer this year, but where we already have a huge amount of commitments from many of the 45 million of our global membership, really committing to environmental targets and us helping to absolutely mainstream this amongst the business community. So we're really seeing that happening, and biodiversity obviously being a very important part of that. So yes, I feel energized and optimistic too.
Excellent. ICC, I mean, did you hear that? 45 million companies? Globally, yes. Globally. I mean, that is incredible, and you can keep the mic because as, Kim, okay. Sorry, no. Because as, I mean, these are the players, ICC, World Economic Forum. In my view, that's really a signal that we are moving from niche to mainstream. When these sorts of organizations say, I mean, WBCSD, where I used to work for 15 years, World Business Council, we've been on this agenda for forever. That's why we were also set up. But now when the ICCs and the World Economic Forums of the world are waking up, you know, how about you, Kim? You've been in these discussions. Any views on how you feel and reflections on the energy to date?
Sure. So I also just arrived yesterday, unfortunately, but I can tell already from, you know, what's been going on in the room, from what's been happening with the discussions, that there's a lot of energy on this topic. And I think what's great, what we've seen at the forum over the last year is really this shift, just as you were saying, Eva, from kind of broad discussions of, oh, okay, we might be involved, we might be interested in this, to more concrete, you know, companies asking what they can do, how they can be involved, and what they should be signing up for. And I think that's a really exciting shift. And hopefully we can build on this during the next, what was it, the 10 months, or the 10-month sprint and 10-year marathon. So yeah, I think it's very positive, and I think the more concrete we can be, the better.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And Bernedine? Yes. Ooh, that was a serious face. Maybe you have, you're not a... What do you think?
Well, I arrived 2 days ago, so no, I really enjoyed being in the bubble for a while, but I still have the impression that this is a bubble. And but I'm impressed by all the work that has been done thus far. So all the methodologies and the tools that are out there, and also the very good examples that are, of course, also out there. But when I speak to companies, and I speak mostly to the big corporates, I see how they struggle with it. And of course, I mean, CSR Europe is a membership organization, so we work with with corporate companies. We also work at the national level. We have business networks also at the national level that are also a member of CSR Europe. So reach out to many companies, and of course, on the positive side, we see that there's an increased interest in biodiversity. It is upcoming, and also after the report, the IPBES report, I don't know how to pronounce it. We definitely see that there is an increasing interest, but at the same time, there are so many questions, and there is like this forest of methodologies and tools, and companies really don't know where to start. So on the one hand, I'm positive. I mean, yes, something is going on. On the other hand, I feel there's a world to gain. It's so much that has to be done, and I'm positive about the corporates that decided to join our collaborative platform, the collaborative platform that we are creating to work on biodiversity in the supply chain. Because that is also something that I realize. Many companies do something on biodiversity, but just on site, on the land that they own, but they do not do, or they don't have any idea what is happening in their supply chain. So I think it's time to act, and indeed also the corporates told us that there's a huge gap between the commitment and the action. And that is also why we want this platform to really act and to collaborate.
I just wanted...
Clap.
I just wanted to come back in around this. We were asked to keep on asking each other questions as well. Around the bubble thing. Because at our event, we did our third collaboration day, bringing the natural capital community together now with the social and human this week on Wednesday. And 70% of the room was new, that had never been to one of those events before. And each one of those, I think Nadine, who's in the room, keeps on using this phrase, and there's more training going on this afternoon, is a change agent taking that out further. So yes, I think there is a lot of people in the room that have the same way of thinking, same things there, but actually it is continuing to grow there. And I think that 70% of the room new in an event like that is really, really promising for us.
It is, but it's still a small number.
Yeah.
But it's promising. I mean, it's great that it's growing, and I think it should. And that's also what we feel that the companies want. But it's still small, and we have to, increase the number of activities in this field, I think.
Thanks, Bernadine. And in fact, Tom, you were giving us Thomas. Tom.
Those who know me very well call me Tom, so I use it. But any name is fine.
Oh, Thomas. But you were talking about the rate of increase before. You were giving us stats on at least the participation here. What are your feelings right now?
Well, first of all, I was privileged to be part of the opening, so I was here from the beginning. And as I already said, every time I come here, and that's no different this time around, I feel incredibly energized. And it's also a very important sounding board that this group is offering. Because we are at 1% green, and we need to get to 100, and we already agreed that this is a very steep curve to go, and we really need to increase at levels, almost astronomical speed we need to develop. But I'm confident that even if it's a small bubble, it's the incubator, and we need to go to the scaling and then all that. And I think we're in good shape. As I said already earlier in the session, what I take away, I try to summarize in 3 things. I find this platform incredibly helpful around 3 I's. It brings together very practical ways of transforming theory into practice through an information-based system. And this accounting thing is no longer a few people getting excited about it, but it's becoming, sorry to use the word, mainstream, which nobody else understands outside the environment community, is becoming something that I hear, many more people are convinced. So that's the test that allows me to go back to Brussels and continue to work with colleagues. It's not just an idea of a few, but it's becoming, actually, in my personal opinion, it's the critical link to increase the comfort of those who feel that they need to do something but are not quite sure, and they're being overwhelmed with all kind of initiatives. And as a former auditor, accounting is that language that can bring, who was using that word, the complexity together on a sheet of paper and not making it more complicated than needed. So this accounting thing is huge. Second, impact on the ground. We can talk as much as we can. The common lands of this world, it's the entrepreneurship that needs to be staying very close to, you understand your problem, what should we do? You need people that can do the work from the bottom up. And then third eye, the missing link is the finance. The people that were here and that gave us real confidence that we're going beyond, you know, how would I call this? Beyond window dressing, but now we're no longer talking about a few 100,000. We're starting to go into the millions, and I'm sorry to say we need to go from millions to billions and from billions to trillions. That's how we go to the... So those three eyes we need to keep together. We need to keep the spirit. We need to continue and grow it further. And I would see this process as fundamental in bringing all these actors together. And I think from a Commission point of view, you heard the big boss this morning. It's good to hear him say the same thing as what we think and say. The colleagues in this biodiversity and business platform is going to be a crucial element in moving forward in the Green Deal sphere, which is definitely creating an opportunity that we haven't seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can say a few words about this later on.
Yeah, they clearly are. I mean, so many more initiatives, so many more platforms, coalitions. Are we getting to coalition fatigue? In my mind, what I have is this one person said once, don't be annoyed, don't be angry, you're in a traffic jam. You are the traffic jam. So every time you think of creating something new, a new project, this new group of people, but then don't complain that there is complexity in this and that it's hard for companies to engage because they're not quite sure. Obviously, Mark, I'm sure you have views on this, but you know, I think we also have to take a critical look at ourselves and say to ourselves, we need to be clear about how all the pieces fit together, and that when you start something new, you say to yourself, hang on a second, is someone else already doing this? And can I also promote what others are doing and how they fit together? Is that a fair statement? Any things that you've heard from companies on confusion? Any, you know, more upbeat points to make on that?
Well,
Bernedine.
Yeah. Well, there is, of course, confusion because we, I mean, as CSR Europe, we've been working on CSR policies for ages. It's for 25 years, actually. So, and I think, of course, topics are changing. So the agenda is changing, and that is all very relevant. But it seems that biodiversity is a separate topic. But it should be integrated. I mean, for companies, it would be so much so much better if it was part of the risk management and the CSR risk management that they are already doing. It should be part of their materiality analysis that they are already doing. So I think it is a little bit too much of a bubble still, biodiversity, because it has separate methodologies, separate tools. It should be integrated more into the other tools, the CSR tools, so to call, or sustainability tools or whatever. I think that is really very relevant next step.
Thomas, you wanted to build straight on that, and then Mark? Oh, great.
Well, we already agreed a minute ago we will continue in Brussels, because I think we can help each other. Also, if I share with you the learning process I went through, this natural capital logic here, and which I translate always in the four legs of the chair: air, water, land, biodiversity. That's how you think. It's the E of the triple bottom line. I know it's a lot of, but I agree. We have CSR communities, ESG communities, triple bottom line communities, but it's all the same. So that's also why accounting needs to be dry like ash. It needs to service the triple bottom line information. And today we call it by 2030 SDGs, and then it's going to be a new thing, but it's always the same. And we need to make sure, that's why going to 2030, I think we have to really accelerate the action. We can do it, should do it. We should think in terms of 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 2030. Everything should be in order to then land in 2050 fully sustainable. But we need to have our minds on the output. Where do we need to be in 2050, and then calculate back? And you'd be surprised how fast you would have to act to be sustainable in 2050. You have less than 5 years when it comes to infrastructure. So lots of things keep coming here. It's really a good place to bring the things together.
There is complexity, but it is coming together. And I think that we don't help ourselves by continually saying how complex it is. Because what we do is we just back up this theory. And I think actually it's human nature in some ways to turn around and say, oh, it's a bit too difficult, it's a bit too complex. It isn't. And I think that what we've got with the capitals, at least, with bringing those together now through the Capitals Coalition, the reason this has occurred is because those that started doing this 5 or 6 years ago and started on nature, started thinking about the biodiversity question, water, the 4 legs of the stool, a lot of those people are now working on the social question, and they've realized that actually you can't solve this without the other pieces. And they were starting to create their own bubbles around the environment and realize that decisions are not made just around the environment. They're made in the complexity of life. So we have to have tools and things that look across all of this. So I think that we are getting there, and I think Business for Nature is a brilliant example of this. A lot of us here on this platform are involved in that, a lot of people in the audience here. What we're doing there is we really are coming together, and this isn't another organization on top of everything else. This is all of us putting our energies, our work, the things that we do every day, our commitments, our solutions, our comms, and those policy arcs all together to actually have some impact with it. And that is amazing that we can get to that point, that we can all get behind something like that.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. And Kim, you want to jump?
Sure, yeah. No, I wanted to go back a little bit to the idea of the bubble because I love it. The idea of bubbles and echo chambers and everything like that, where we're just listening to each other talk. And I think that's something that we at the Forum see as a major trigger, as we were asked to talk a little bit about today, and how we can engage other businesses. And it's very true that we see that for many businesses that we speak with, the business and economic case for investing in nature and caring about nature loss has really not been made for a lot of them. Or, they'll say, oh yeah, we like animals, or personally we like animals, but, that's about it. And so at the Forum, one of our major work streams this year is we're developing the new Nature Economy Report, which is going to try and make that business and economic case for nature. And this report's going to come out in 3 pieces. And the first piece is on risk, and it's going to come out right before the annual meeting at Davos, where a lot of other things are also going to be happening on nature. And that risk piece is really going to be looking at the nature crisis and looking at convincing businesses about that business and economic case. The second piece, which is another trigger that we were thinking about, is on opportunities. So once businesses, get in the room or, start to think about, oh, well, nature might be interesting for us, how do they get involved? What does the transformation look like for them? And it's really, translating this broad systems, call for system transformation into that business-oriented action agenda. And that for us is really what the second piece of the new Nature Economy Report is going to be on, that opportunities, sector-specific, looking at sectors that have the most impact on biodiversity loss. And the third piece is on financing. So the second piece is going to come out in June around the IUCN conference. The third piece will come out in August, and that's really going to be on financing for nature. So for us, it's bringing some of these triggers to maybe widen the bubble, or not, I wouldn't say pop the bubble, but maybe get more people on board.
Thanks. No, thanks. And so everyone look out for those really influential reports that will be coming out. And you were talking about the business case, and it made me think, it's always this ultimate question of how do you end up making nature and biodiversity material to companies, and we're going to go through the accounting, and we were saying we can't wait for that to be perfect because we need to act already. There's no shying away from it. And so somehow it goes back to this actual, sometimes personal or emotional connection that as human beings we've sort of forgotten that everything around us, every single thing comes from nature, and that we need to reconnect and also maybe just be okay with the fact that we care and not sort of, have the hidden club behind the scenes, and that it's about responsibility and leadership and having the courage to say, well, actually, yes, this is part of what we need to do. In the interim, it might not be rewarded straight away, but we know that we need this transformational change. Is that, even now, right now, saying it feels a bit funny to be like, yeah, I actually really care. Is that how you feel in your discussions? Is it okay? You feeling more open about it and more courageous? Please, Tom.
I just wanted to add on to what you were saying, because it's really exactly the same kind of discussions we are having. So our current chairman of the ICC, Paul Polman, former Unilever CEO, he's really touring the globe as sort of the ICC's ambassador, and his really absolute top-level key message to businesses out there is saving the planet is a business opportunity, you know, and he is talking globally about billions we were talking about. So we're not at the trillion level there yet, but certainly about a billion, multiple billions business opportunity of getting this right, you know. So again, just to echo what you were doing, this is exactly what we are trying to get across as well.
Thank you. Thomas, Tom, Tim, Timmy.
Tim was the earlier boyfriend of my wife, so that's a bit sensitive. So don't go there. Call me Thomas. We're fine. More than 25 years married, so fine. Anyway, coming back on the business case, what I find, and I keep saying, having worked on the two planets, basically the corporate and the finance planet and then the environment planet for 2 years, we're still trying to move planets together. I'm very optimistic. Why? It's not the first time that we've seen the sustainable finance renaissance. I mean, I go along quite a way back. We've seen it time after time. This time, it's going to be really different. And that's because of the business case. We're no longer, let's try to do something good for the planet, which is what we all intrinsically want to do. It's become a business continuity issue. Do I have water next year or in 5 years to run my business? And that's not a Sahara thing. That's bloody Belgium, which is running out of water to produce concrete, where they have to stop factories for a couple of weeks in the summer, which people in Spain would call peanuts. But it's because we're taking out too much water out of the soil, so it's a resource efficiency thing. It's the fact that we move to 10 billion people. Mm-hmm. So more and more companies, and I would still consider them the champions, if you give them a tool, what the natural capital folks have been doing, they say, okay, what is my total footprint? Not X, Y, and Z, and a little thing here, and then the next thing something else. What is my total footprint? To what extent is that giving me a problem? Mm. We're more and more seeing the things aligned. That's where I think this famous accounting, which is a risk management thing, risk is the key connecting factor.
That's it, but then is the water scarcity, great that it's been recognized by the sustainability teams, does it feature on the company's risk profile?
Well, the folks, the Carings and the BASF, they're all starting to look at it. More interestingly, and that's where accounting is a useful thing to connect, but accounting is still, on finance, it's still very much backward-looking. Yeah. We need forward-looking. And then we're in cash flow analysis. So the similarities, in fact, you bring a nature and environmental agenda to the business community in a language they feel comfortable with. And I believe that I have seen that it connects right away. The ones that need connecting now still, which is why I need to take my plane at 1:30, help me, is to rush to Brussels, because also there I look at my colleagues, the notion that this is important is starting to trickle through in the policy-making context. And we need that combination. We need policy to create the business environment, to enable. We need the business to come in and deliver.
Thanks.
And that's the partnership we need.
Yep. Go ahead, Bernedine.
I just want to confirm indeed that of course businesses are feeling worried about things that are going on, and that they start to understand that there is an impact. There's an impact of biodiversity on their business, and on the other hand that they have an impact on biodiversity. But they want to understand. So what I feel is needed, you have to go outside of the bubble and communicate more, and communicate in a very specific way. It's like sector specific. Region specific. Make it very tangible for the companies so that they can act. There should be a perspective, a concrete perspective on what they can do and to understand. And also I feel that therefore it is very relevant that we create opportunities for business and that we inform them about these opportunities. It's not something that is obvious for business. No. It is something, so get out of the bubble and communicate to the to the businesses and make them understand what is at stake. I think that there's still a lot of awareness raising needed and very much.
Mark, and then we're going to go out to the audience and on slide if there are other questions for the panel.
I completely agree, and one of the good examples of that, I think, is here in Madrid, when David here is running the platform for the Natural Capital Coalition. And what they've done is they've focused on the energy sector because that was an area where there was real interest. They've brought them all together into one room, all parts of the energy system from transition all the way through to extractives, etc., and are looking very practically at what they can do at a local level, understanding that these are international companies though, so what can we then take that out and learn with some of the other platforms around the world. But we've tried several times to look at SMEs, to look at the small, medium enterprises and address that. And unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. We're dumbing down the work. We can't just take it out. We need more tools, we need more thinking about it. The way to do it, I think, is what you were saying, is take it to a regional question. What's the question you're really trying to grapple with? And then bring all of that community together. Bring together the governments, the finance, the big companies, the small companies. And that's the way we're going to really get this embedded.
Thanks so much, Mark. I don't know if this was planned, but I'm interested to hear if there are people in the audience who have questions for the panel or reflections. Yes, the gentleman in the corner there, please. Sorry, Jerome. Yeah, they're standing up. Oh, it's fine.
Hello, thank you very much indeed. I'm not going to speak on behalf of my foundation, just on behalf of me, no? I have not listed the word ethics in the whole sessions, no? And today we have seen some companies in my session that speak about ethics. They don't care about indicators, they don't care about the economics of ecosystems, they don't care about consumers. It's because they believe in that, okay? And we are not speaking about that. And I'm sorry, I don't see many of these companies in the demonstrations against climate change the last months, okay? And young people and NGOs are doing the dirty job for your companies, okay? So please start going on the streets, start lobbying the administration if you really believe on that, because I think that you don't believe on that really, okay? I don't mind indicators. I know what I have to do, you know? So I'm sorry, it's my personal view. Maybe it's not the correct place to talk about that, okay? But I needed to say that. Okay,
thank you. I think it's a perfect issue. Yeah, I think I very much welcome your comment, and I think it's the right place to ask these questions, so thank you. Thomas, you wanted to?
Just a quick comment. At some point, one has to zoom in to make things concrete. But it's very clear that whether we're on any of the pillars of the triple bottom line, it all boils together to sound corporate governance. And that embeds the ethical component. In fact, one may be surprised, but there is already a mandatory provision for non-financial reporting in EU law. The problem today is, also recognized by the reporters and the business cells, is that the way in which you report on environmental, social, and ethical, because there's a corruption dimension, these type of things in there, is fairly open-ended. And so open-ended that it becomes not always as meaningful as one would wish. But it is clear that the direction going forward will be about strengthening that framework. And again, I'm talking about reporting and disclosure. What I was talking about earlier is about supplying the data to feed that in a credible way. So your point is taken, but I just want to give you some hope that it's not being ignored generally.
Any other reactions? If not, we'll get one more, maybe, if there is. Yeah.
Well, I can just say that business ethics is always part of CSR, indeed. So it is something that that we've been working on for ages, also with the companies in the supply chain. Whatsoever business ethics is key. So so that is maybe another reason to integrate biodiversity in the current CSR strategies, that to align it also with business ethics and other topics.
I'll just very quickly add to this as well. I mean, absolutely point taken, but the point we're making here, or I'm trying to make here, is, of course, and to use mainstreaming again, corporate responsibility and ethics has been certainly in the larger multinationally absolutely been mainstreamed now. But the message here is, on top of that, it actually makes business sense to do good. So that is maybe the message I didn't bring across well, but that's what I was trying to say.
Anything? No? Anyone else? One more, Marianne, thank you. And then we'll go to Slido.
See, Marion Hammer from Global Nature Fund. We are listening about risk management and we are listening about business opportunities. And I'm an economist and I just want to, first of all, to underline that the risks we are facing now were made also because of business as usual and of the fact that we are always in a growing economy. No? So how the future business opportunities will avoid that risks are growing, meanwhile you are in this growing economy and always growing, and we know that our resources on the planet are limited. So how will this go together?
Big question. How can we have, okay. It's a very well-made point. Does anyone want to react? I think it's something we're familiar with. Thomas? Yeah, then you've got to go.
I don't want to monopolize, but quickly, hence the importance of understanding your total impact, which is a proxy for risk, but can serve all other things, which is difficult to do today. Once you understand your risk, and if you then start looking forward, you will start realizing where the constraints are on your growth. And you will start moving it around by applying solutions that we call basically green investments, or which are investments that reduce your impact or dependency on the natural capital, which is limited, scarce. I mean, we've always considered as a public good that is abundantly available, no scarcity. That's a personal comment. I think that notion is going out of the window very, very quickly, and only a few are seeing it so far. Many more need to see it. And that's the importance of the movement that is going on right now. That's where I think we will see things going fast, fast, fast.
Thank you so much. We're going to now move to Slido. We're going to get into some of the policy asks. Oh, I'm sorry, Bernadine, we're not.
I just wanted to mention that the circular economy is, of course, one of the solutions, or maybe the most important solution to those questions, to have a more systemic change. And that is also why many of us, I think, are working on creating these circular business models with companies. So I think there's still a lot to be done, but there is at least a direction that we should go in order to really change the system. Yeah.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you for, of course, raising that. And the new CEO guide to the circular bioeconomy just came out yesterday and was relaunched today, right, Brendan? Thank you. All right. So, you'll pay me later.
Can I just add
to
that, the circularity?
Please.
I think what we do need to do, though, is make sure that is connected back down to the primary resources. Because I think a lot of the work in circularity at the moment, we're creating these circles, but not having the direct relationship back down to the resources that underpin it. And we need to make sure that that's brought in all of that circularity work more clearly.
So we've spoken quite a bit about incentives and making sure that nature and biodiversity becomes material to business in the mainstream. And so clearly, policy asks today, we've been talking about public policy collaboration. We're going to go to Slido because there are a number of questions now which are based on some of the work a lot of people have already been doing in policy, and are, if implemented, which policy recommendations would be most likely to convince your CEO or, business person that you work with to do more on nature? So what would actually incentivize the CEO to do more on nature? And we have a list here. I'm going to ask the panel to react to it. We're going to watch this go up. So, agree on ambitious targets based on existing science to halt the loss of nature by 2030 is in the lead right now. You can vote for 2, hence why they're both 60%. Okay, got it. Support the transformation of the current economic and financial systems. These are all pretty high level. There's a lot more detail underneath each one on the survey that Business for Nature released on Tuesday this week. Please, really, another shout out to encourage all of you to share with your business connections, business organizations, so that companies can test and provide feedback on which of the priority policy asks for Business for Nature to take forward. The World Economic Forum in Davos in January is going to be the point we already need to be ready with some high-level policy asks on nature from business if we want to influence anything next year. So here we are. So we've got the two top ones quite ahead of the game, I have to say here. I don't know if you can see them, dear panelists, but we've really got these two head-to-head on transforming the economic and financial systems, and then on the agreed ambitious targets based on science. What are your reactions to that? Anyone want to jump in right now?
Sure, I'll just jump in to say this is exciting to see, because we at the Forum, especially the transformation of the current economic and financial systems, that's the message that we have and what we've been saying. You know, we know we're pushing past planetary boundaries. We know that small shifts are not going to cut it. And so for us, it's really, you know, looking at how we can transform economic and social models to make them not only, you know, nature compatible, but nature positive. And so that's exciting to see that everyone agrees with that, even though it's kind of a big, scary term.
Thank you. Any other reactions? And we'll move on to the next question. Yeah, Mark and Tom.
Certainly the first point about the transformation of the economic and financial system, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing all the problems at the moment with the Bretton Woods institutions and all of that. So absolutely yes, and that definitely needs to be an environmental sustainability element to that as well. The second point with the targets, I think that's what we said earlier. We should move away from, we have the targets, but now we need to do it. So I would add a point that is not on there. It's now time, and there it's businesses who need to have leadership. It's now time to come up with the technologies, and many of them are there already, implement the technologies that can get us there, you know.
Thank you.
I'd like to suggest that how we support the transformation of the current economic and financial systems is probably that 5, the integrating and harmonizing decisions. If we can get those decisions, the accounting that Thomas has been talking about, if we get that bit right, that's going to really help us to do 3. And the interconnections between some of these are really interesting. We can't, this is very passé, but you can't just do one of them. We've actually got to do all of them, I know. But actually that number 5 links into number 1 or number 3 very clearly for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Couple of very quick comments. As former Bretton Woods, I used to work for IMF some part in life. So I agree, we need to change the system and the way we take decisions today. What we have been discussing already for some time, and which I believe there's consensus, in addition to keeping the financial system, financial accounting system, we need the environmental accounting system, and eventually the social accounting system. So the 3, I would say, FGAP, SGAP, EGAP, those are the ones you need. And then we're going to transform in a Marshall Plan way, the way we go forward. Targets, obviously, that has its role. What struck me, but I realize it's a recommendation to the CEO. If we convince the CEO, we can match it on the policy level. And that's what, if you read the Green Deal in the political guidelines of President-elect Ms. von der Leyen, and this is all about it. But again, maybe I can say a few things about this later on again.
It was a wonderful transition to our next Slido question. I'd like to keep the pace here, please. So the next question is, if you were a policymaker, sometimes it's really hard. You need to put yourself in the shoes of these people, because it's easy to point fingers, right? So if you were a policymaker, which of the recommendations would be adaptable today and suitable for you to add? That wasn't the question, sorry. If you were a policymaker, which of the recommendations do you think would be ready and suitable for you to adopt today? I heard, one of the comments yesterday over coffee, that's also when you have the most interesting conversations of saying, well, it's one thing to say, this is this ambitious regulation that we're going to put in place, and everyone on stage says, yes, that's wonderful, and then they will go home and say, no, we've got to lobby against this, we can't do this, and just be open about that, because it's not always that obvious, is it? So, here we go. Ambitious targets up on there too. Was it basically the same question? Interesting. All right, I'm going to get some reactions from the panelists, please. Bernedine, you look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go because I kind of miss one option, which is green public procurement. It is already there. It's existing policies. It should just be implemented. It's not implemented in a complete way. I mean, it's partially implemented, I would say. And there are so many options. It is already there, just implemented. And that is something that should be done by, I mean, the Commission and all the European institutions, but also at the national level, at the local level. We already have that policy in place. And it could be a big trigger also for companies to really to really invest in biodiversity if that is one of the requests in a public procurement.
Thank you. Any other reactions? No? We're aligned?
Does this map what we just had on the last one? It looks like it's about the same order,
It basically does, yeah, it looks like the same thing. But it may have been that the questions were basically sort of asking the same thing. So you're consistent. Well done. You provided consistent responses. So,
there's more policy recommendations I could give, but one is that I think there should be more investment or more facilitation by the governments and by the European Commission also on collaboration locally, nationally, collaboration to find the right solutions to have a positive impact on biodiversity. And I think that is definitely something that the government should facilitate. There's a big role to play, and that is lacking. I think it wasn't mentioned in the policy recommendations.
Thank you.
Can I quickly jump in?
Okay,
yeah,
Kim
so
and then Thomas.
Just to, I think it's really interesting, especially when the question was from a policy perspective, what policy would you be willing to do? And the second was make systems transformations, which is quite ambitious. And I'm not sure there's many policymakers who would be able to do that right now. I mean, hopefully there is. But I think just a plug for the Business for Nature policy recommendations, I think one of the things we see at the forum is that we really need businesses to give governments that confidence to be ambitious in their policy making, and I think that Business for Nature's policy recommendations and other things that are happening are really crucial for that. So hopefully policymakers are in the place to call immediately for large-scale system transformations.
Yep. Of course you may, Thomas.
It's that combination that we need. Just in case it's not clear yet, you say policymakers may not be ready yet. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of choice, because the new commission, we expect to hit the road probably the 1st of December. And that's when the political guidelines will very quickly translate into policy. So we expect a first Green Deal, which is an overall communication, all these bits and pieces coming together, coming out very, very soon, maybe before the end of the year. And then, as I said in the beginning, and Danielle was repeating earlier today, we expect other flagship programs to follow equally quickly in the new year. Yeah? And then obviously there's the biodiversity strategy which is coming forward, which will set out the way forward at the European and the international level. So all these things are important to bear in mind. Also zero pollution, which is about water and air pollution and health related things. They're all part of the same game. And then obviously we cannot continue the way we go, so we need a circular economy thing. All there to promote what we call future-proofing on the economy. So keep your eyes on what's coming out of the Brussels and help us making sure that the content of it makes sense, all on the way to transforming the system. Because right now is when we need to act if we need to deliver on the promises that we already made. That's important.
Cool, thanks. So we also launched this another Slido question, bringing it back home to us as individuals, and what are we going to actually take as a concrete action after leaving this conference? There are some pretty good things popping up here of consider how I travel to Marseille. Yeah, I was also thinking about that. Changing the way we talk about and simplify the issues. I think this was going to the panelists. Are there anything that you can see popping out?
We already start. Oh, there was one about push CSR Europe to start with biodiversity. Yes, so we are launching a platform on biodiversity and industry. Yes. No, and of course I was quite critical from the very beginning, but we are launching this platform because we feel there is a need, and the corporates are indeed interested to join forces and to work on this. And with that we will closely collaborate with the EU platform on biodiversity. business and biodiversity. So we're looking forward to that because there is already a lot to share, and we will definitely benefit from the work that has been done through the collaboration with the EU platform. So
thanks so much.
We will.
Super. Well, you've got your answer straight away. There's a whole bunch of things about testing and applying the different multi-capital approaches, disseminate business for nature. I love the person who said that. Staff and internal discussion, sharing, etc., etc. So this was also a way of you in the audience to just make sure that you know what your next steps are when you leave here. It's so easy to have so much energy and then that just to be gone when you go home. So final question on Slido for us is, how likely is your organization, if you think about where you work, to take more ambitious commitments following this conference, or at least following the recent interest that's raising in this community? So if I may, this is anonymous, at least for you. No, this is anonymous. It is anonymous. But if anyone who wrote unlikely is willing to put their hand up and share, I would be really interested to hear what are the remaining barriers and what we, as a whole community, you have a whole community here to help. Anyone wanting to share? Oh, I didn't see. Oh, super, thank you. If you don't mind, thank you.
Hello? Yeah. Yeah, obviously, I press unlikely, although I'm not going to do it. It's likely that I'll do more, right? Because I work in this business. But I think it's unlikely that the people is going to do something else because it's not mandatory for anyone. All the people that are here are voluntaries. I've been working in these issues during the last 10 years strongly. And I'm seeing faces every single time, the same faces. It's not progressing properly. We are working as quick as snails. It's just desesperating. We need to do more. We need more money. We need more policies. We need more people involved. And it's not working properly. It's just desesperating for me. And that's why I put unlikely there.
Thank you. And can you just keep the mic just a second? Because we are not moving fast enough. I think that we all agree on. But as you've been working in this for 10 years or so, the examples that were shared or the speeches that were made earlier today, the examples from business and from finance around these different ways of approaching it, we weren't hearing the same discourse or the same examples and seeing the same action 10 years ago. Would you agree with that there has been progress?
There is progress. There are more projects in the field. There are more projects in companies. But it's not enough. And we see that it's not enough because the news are coming up. The results from scientific are coming up.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. Enough. Thank you very much. Thomas?
The last thing I want to do is become defensive on that point, because there's definitely the need to scale and to go much faster. I think we all made the point. What I do like to repeat is that money is not the issue. We have much more money than we have concrete pipeline coming through, projects, etc. So that's why I referred again to the 3 I's, information. If you understand what you need, then you're going to be much more proactive in finding the solutions. We need the entrepreneurship, and we need to really support it, facilitate, so that it multiplies at factors that we have not been seeing. And then we need the investors to come in and make sure they're part of the game. We see now figures coming up the screen that are beyond the 100,000s, in the millions, as I said. And just to let you know, there is something that we worked on already in the forthcoming Invest EU financial instruments for 40 billion euros. 12 billion is on infrastructure. 20% therefore is on natural capital and circular economy projects or businesses. So there is already a pot of money. I hear others saying that we need 20 billion a year. That's probably true. But we need to work together. That's the confidence we need to give each other. There's no point in increasing the money if the pipeline doesn't come through. So you need the 3 eyes, and you need to work them interactively and move them forward.
Thank you, Thomas. We have 2 minutes left, and you need to go. But I don't want you to leave the stage by yourself. Meaning, I want to wrap up altogether, if that's okay. So, 20 seconds each, and we go down just on any final words. It's 20 seconds, final comments, starting with you, Mark.
Everyone get behind Business for Nature. Don't set up other things. Let's just use that as the vehicle for next year. Let's prove that these things that we're doing really do make a difference.
Thank you. Tom.
I absolutely hear the slightly more negative, more worried voices here in the room, but I really feel momentum is building from the industry side.
Thank you. Kim.
Yes, I think, echoing what you're saying, I think that there's a lot of work to be done, and I think a lot of people are really ready to do the work, so let's get started.
Excellent. Bernadine. 2 mics? No.
Yeah, I also feel that a lot of work has already been done, so a lot of knowledge and tools are already out there, so I think it's time for action and action to really work with the companies and create the models that have a positive impact on biodiversity. So yeah, it's timely. I think we should start now.
Thank you. Thomas.
As I said yesterday morning, think nature, think natural capital, count to 4, make the sum, think big, think outside of silos, help our colleagues who will be writing the strategy with concrete proposals that allow us to combine the forces and moving forward and operate at scales that we have not seen before. Within the next 5 years, we need to be really operating at different levels so that we're on a pathway to 2030 and beyond that is really sustainable. So break even is where I think we should be ending up, anywhere between 2030 and 2050. So no material impact on the environment any more than what it can regenerate.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for our panelists, please. And for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to run through a whole long list of people I need to thank. Now, we're one huge team here. We're all helping each other. I think that's one thing that is very clear. But there are a few people who need to be thanked in particular, especially for this event. So here goes. Thanks for CSR Forum for hosting. Thanks to all the session leads and the collaborating organizations. We've got Natural Capital Coalition, now Capitals Coalition, WBCSD, CBD, Foundation Global Nature, Spain CIF, Conama Foundation, Business for Nature, ASIPS. I haven't finished. Thanks to the co-organizers, Fundación Empresa y Clima, Fundación Biodiversidad, Spanish Ministry for Ecological Transition, Spanish Business and Biodiversity Initiative, Ministry of Environment and Climate of Finland. We've got a very special thanks to the ICF team, Jan and Jerome, who did a fantastic job bringing this together. And of course, Lars Müller from the European Commission, who I have to say has a not-so-secret plan, has become the sort of mastermind behind a bunch of these events. Finally, EcoAXA, without whom this event would not have been possible. And I'm going to invite, yes. I'm going to please invite David, Paz, and AIXA from Fundación Biodiversidad in particular to please come on stage. David, Paz, and AIXA. And Jerome. Flash mob. No. Jerome prepared a flash mob by himself. Have you got a whole ceremonial for this? Or? So then we all clap. Is that it? Our music. Thank you so much. As you've done. Bravo. Last, come on. Last. Okay. Sorry? Jan is in the back. Hello, Jan. Thank you. All right, everyone, this is it. This is the end of this conference. There's more work to be done, but it's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And thank you so much. We'll be in touch very soon. All the best. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to the panelists.
Hello? Can I just ask one even louder clapping of the hands for Eva and the way she leads us through these things every single time. Thank you very much.
Music.